to the ArtGibbs Sports Business Podcast. Thank you so much for joining us. Today we've got a special one. We're joined by Josh Kravetz, who's an event organizer, organizes events that involve beer and bikes and running and mountains and scavenger hunts and a whole lot of fun. Adventure Life Events is his company. And one of his events, the Old Man Winter Rally, caught my attention. So I reached out to him and he was gracious enough to come on the podcast. We had a great conversation. We'll have him back on to talk some more detail and some more war stories. But in this one, we kind of talk about the various events and what they're like and what competitors can expect and how we got into it. It's a great conversation. I enjoyed it. So I will send you over there now. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. Josh Kravetz. So we're joined here by Josh Kravetz, and you're the president of the Adventure Fit Events. Mm-hmm. So maybe just a little bit about Adventure Fit Events. What kind of is that? What kind of events do you put on?
So my background is cycling. I was a professional cross-country mountain biker back in the day and got into adventure races and always loved kind of unique festivals. In Austin, there were all these fun festivals that were not necessarily races, but I always thought it's really fun to kind of put things together that traditionally aren't done together. For example, my first ever bike race was in Lajitas, Texas, which is right by Big Bend. And they had things like a log pull, and it's just this old little town, and everybody had a 6-pack of beer out on the dirt roads, and I just thought it was the coolest thing ever. It was a mountain bike stage race, and so over the years, I did a lot of different events and did a lot of races, and started to come up with ideas for kind of some of the unique events. So some of the first ones we did were bike scavenger hunts, bike obstacle races. One was called the Urban Assault Ride. Wow. And the Urban Assault Ride was teams of two, which I kind of combined, the concept of adventure racing where you have a teammate, and cycling, of course, because you're riding bikes, but you ride to checkpoints around the city, and at the checkpoints you do obstacles. So we did this event all over the country for 12 years. So we'd had everything from riding roller coasters to adult big wheels, inflatable slip and slides. Every city was different, and so that was really cool. And it ended up working out where it showed people that you can use bikes for transportation, because you have to use you've got to figure out your own way around town. So that was a interesting one that we did for New Belgium Brewing for 10 years, and started to develop a niche for events for craft breweries. And cycling and craft beer and outdoor lifestyle kind of go hand in hand. So that evolved to doing a variety of other events outside of cycling as well. So we've done obstacle races, we've done concerts, we do beer festivals, taco festivals, but we always like to have some sort of active element tied into it. Ultimately, just really fun outdoor active lifestyle events that we want to do in the weekends to make weekends awesome, and combine things that we think are pretty cool, and that's always evolving. So.
Oh yeah, and great camaraderie. So like those events where you go and you're doing the scavenger hunt and stuff like that, like how long does that event take place? Is it over like a couple of days?
Those were over just 2 to 4 hours.
Okay.
So everybody would start at the same place. It was really fun. I mean, it was you have to figure out your own route to the different checkpoints. We have, some proposed routes, but for people that are taking it very seriously, they figure out their own route around town. It's about 20 miles total distance, and then everybody finishes at the same spot, and there's a big party and, music and lots of beer.
How do you do the route finding? Is it like you have like a set of instructions, like turn by turn, or like how do you?
So we provide the checkpoint.
What is that like?
Yeah,
okay,
so
the checkpoint.
We basically just let people know where they've got to go, and then they have to figure out their own route and what order they want to go to. So most people will take a clockwise way or a counterclockwise way, but we would throw in a couple of mystery checkpoints in there too to throw people off a bit. But yeah, it was fun. I mean, we had 1,500 people in some markets doing that event. Austin is where we started that, but Denver was a big one. Fort Collins, Des Moines, Iowa was huge. They're all about beer and bikes in Des Moines. So that was
Oh
a
yeah.
really big one.
Yeah, I did an auto rally one time with my father, and you were given like sort of turn by turn instructions, but no map. So
Oh, wow.
you go turn by turn, but if you get off, where you're supposed to be, you show up in some parking lot or something. You got to try to go back turn by turn and be like, did I miss that stop sign or what? Because there's no map to know kind of where you are.
Yeah,
Which makes it a lot of
that's
fun.
wild. Yeah, well, it's always fun to come up with, very different and fun ways to unique little spins on things that people aren't used to. That's always what we've tried to do. And, sometimes it's to our detriment because we have to, we're the first ones to come up with certain concepts. And, it's good to be innovative, but at the same time, sometimes it's hard to explain what you're doing when people have never heard of anything like it before. So.
Oh yeah. So what is this Old Man Winter event? I sort of stumbled upon it, seeing these people running and riding in sub-zero temperatures and snow, and
Yeah.
I noticed that it looks like it took place over like a week or something like that. What is that event all about?
Well, traditionally, it's a one-day event, and it was designed to be a reason for everybody to come together and bundle up no matter what the weather and just go out for a fun bike adventure. And it's now in its seventh year. After a couple of years, we added a run, so there's a winter run component. We've added a couple of distances, and because it's in Boulder, it's become ultra competitive. Last year, we had all the best gravel racers in the country come out, and we ended up getting hit in the middle of the event with a huge snowstorm. Weather is,
Which
that's
makes
kind
great
of the
photos.
yeah, there's some awesome photos. I mean, it was really fun. Unfortunately, there were snow plows on the roads, so they made us stop in the middle of that one. But for the previous 5 years, it's always been kind of cold and it's a mixed terrain event. So there's road, there's a significant amount of gravel, and there's also a trail on the 100K course, which connects two canyons. And the trail is an old gold mining route that always has snow on it. So that's an interesting one to try to plan for, because if you want to maximize your speed on the road, then you're not going to do well on this trail. And so it's kind of fun. And again, it's very, very different course than what people are used to. And we started in 2015, right when the gravel was starting to get popular. So it's definitely one of the bigger gravel events in Colorado. And this last year, because of COVID, we had to get really creative with the format. So that's where it ended up actually being 2 weeks. But the idea was initially we were going to do it over 2 days. So because you have limited capacity with COVID as far as how many people you can have in one place at one time, we were going to have the run on a Saturday and the bike on a Sunday. And the way Colorado's rules is that you can have X amount of people in one place at a certain time. So when we initially launched registration, it was 175. So the idea was we were just going to have this rolling start. People would go, another group would come to the venue, and people would, start the event to be able to have, a decent number of people. And then in September, the COVID numbers spiked and the restrictions increased, and we were limited to 10 people in one place at one time. So we thought, all right, well, what can we do here to still, make this event happen? Because I wasn't a huge fan of virtual events, and that to me, it's that, the course I think is really important. It's important to be able to do things with your friends. It's important to have support. So I thought of a way, okay, well, how do we put these things together so that people can still feel like there's an actual event? So because we can only have so many people per day, we offered it over 9 days. So there was a weekend on both sides, and people could still be in groups of 10 as long as they're with their pod that they're used to riding or running with. The courses were the same, and we used Ride with GPS for timing. So people use their computer or their watch or whatever they use to typically record their times, and it showed up on a live leaderboard, which was kind of cool. And then when they finished, instead of a big after party, we had everybody go to a brewery for a chili and beer, whenever they finished. So it was definitely a slightly different experience, but people that did it really enjoyed it, and they thought it was great to get it out and do something that they've missed for so long. Everybody, of course, we want it to be what like it normally is with a big mass start, but right now there was a pretty innovative way to make it happen.
Wow. Yeah. I mean, that's a lot to put that on, like on your part. Normally you've got one day you've got to be out there running it, and you just
Right.
sort of volunteer the 2 weeks.
Yeah. It was very strange because we had to, our staffing had to increase because we had to staff all the aid stations, but we didn't have the venue, which is usually a ton of work, all the sponsors coming together, the police, the course marshals, like that didn't have to happen either. But event days were very strange because I would just basically hang out at aid stations versus, running around, putting out fires all day long. And it was pretty laid back in that sense. And I got to see a lot of the people and talk to a lot of the riders and runners, which was really fun. But yeah, it was harder in some levels just because it was a extended format, and a lot easier on others. And then the final weekend, it was just an Arctic blast. And it was like the temperature was between -3 and +3. And if we would have had the event in a normal format, that's the weather we would have had on event day. So I guess it was kind of a blessing in disguise. But we did allow people to experience that if they wanted to ride in that. And we did have some people. We also offered one more day, for people that didn't want to brave those conditions, which were harsh. Unless you're standing next to fire, it was difficult. So
wow, yeah.
But yeah, definitely Old Man Winter came to visit us. That's for sure.
And so normally you have like a whole kind of like tent area with sponsors at the beginning where the start is, and then a big party afterward. Normally on that event.
Yeah, totally. We have a bunch of bonfires, and everybody gets s'mores, and our title sponsor has always been a brewery, so there's always beer flowing and chili and music and lots of contests. And we've had great sponsors, Rafa and Specialized, and lots of all the local brands are based in Boulder. So a lot of the folks that come out to just support the event are just in the industry. But it's kind of the kickoff for the season, and everybody loves to tell their war stories afterwards. When they're eating chicken around the campfire. But yeah, that's really what we love to do, is to be able to create that after party experience too. So it was sad to not to be able to have that, but I think people get it at this point.
Yeah, they get it. But I think, these types of events, it's like, this is what everybody wants to get back to, the camaraderie and, being with people and, going out and sharing these super tough experiences, and then coming back and, being around a bonfire with everybody. And hopefully like really soon we can start getting back to that.
Yeah, I sure hope so. To me, an event is the energy of all the people together. And I would have loved to have been able to do that, in 1 or 2 days with Old Man Winter, but, we just couldn't because of capacity limits. So we had to extend it, and people really dug it. We had certainly some good performances out there. Alex Howes and Lachlan Morton from EF Pro Cycling came out and just destroyed it. It was amazing to watch them ride. They were definitely professionals when it comes to how they took on the course. But we definitely want to be able to have those parties again. And we have the Gold Rush Bike Rally, which is kind of the sister event for Old Man Winter, that's coming up in September. And that's positioned as it's in Gold Hill, which is this old historic gold mining town. So we're positioning it as a gravel hootenanny. So we're going to try to have a road closure with some bands and beer in the street, and it should be a lot of fun. And we're betting on the fact that we'll be able to get people together again in fall.
Oh yeah, that's awesome. Were you able to do any events last year, or just you got the Old Man Winter in, but then did you get any other events in, or?
No, we didn't. We had to cancel our festivals. We've got our food and music festivals that we had to cancel, sadly, and we had to cancel Gold Rush. just, because of capacity limits. We got kind of creative and created some online experiences, but it's not the experience that we're used to, and
It's
look
not the
forward to
same.
making happen.
Yeah. But
But yeah,
you guys are going to be okay and survive and thrive this year, you think?
I think so. Yeah. I mean, we're still want the festivals to come back. I mean, that's kind of our bread and butter. The cycling events are awesome, and they're growing, for sure. But we love 5,000 person events. So we're still a ways out from there. But yeah, we're gonna make it. And hopefully by this fall we'll be able to do some big events, and by 2022 I think we'll have a lot more opportunities. And I think once people feel safe, I think they're going to be coming out in droves to be able to.
I think they're going to be coming out in droves. Yeah, I think people are ready. Once they get the word, and there's, I guess, the vaccinations are,
Right.
in a high enough percentage, I think people are you're not going to be able to keep them away.
Yeah, I hope so. I'm cautiously optimistic that that's the case, and I'm sure that there will be plenty of people that would be down to do it. There might still be some that are going to be afraid, but
Sure.
I think if you're healthy or if you've been vaccinated, I think there will be enough people to be able to definitely fill up some events.
Oh yeah. So what kind of things do you have on the horizon, or what kind of, events would you like to do, or, changes that you'd like to make? Not something that you have scheduled, but,
Yeah.
what's kind of next for like putting these events together? Do you have any ideas
Sure.
brewing?
Yeah. Well, I'm very excited by the fact that there's been such a surge in interest in cycling, and the bike industry is sold out, having issues with supply chain, not only from
Now,
you know
now, do you think that's driven by, sorry to jump in there, but do you
yeah.
think that's driven by the COVID stuff, or do you think it's a combination of things, or what do you think's kind of driving that?
Well, a lot of things. I mean, my little brother in LA is a perfect example. He's a gym rat that would go to the gym 3 or 4 times a week, and it was an expensive gym membership, and then they limited it to like 1 time a week, so it wasn't worth it to him. So he bought a gravel bike, and now he's he's getting into riding gravel, and that's his thing because he doesn't go to the gym now. So I think that was a big part of it for people that wanted to do something healthy that they felt was safe. And I also feel like it's something that when people have a lot more time on their hands, it's maybe something that they can pick up. It's, as far as the shortage of bikes and bike components and everything like that, there's definitely a surge in demand, but then there's also the issue of
Getting
supply.
it over here.
Yeah, global supply. And I understand Specialized, for example, has 20 to 30,000 stump jumpers alone that are on back order, and Shimano has 300 days for back order on new orders. I mean, it's amazing. So that definitely has to do with demand, in addition to not being able to get products over in the right places. But bike shop certainly had a good year, and I hope that continues. So I think it's going to be interesting to be able to create events and experiences for people that are have now been bitten by the cycling bug. I feel like that's the logical step, that once you get into something, you kind of see, okay, well, where's the community around this? And obviously, cycling is all about events, whether it's tours or races or, gravel. I think is kind of cool because it's open to a lot of people that just want a fun adventure, and that's always what we've tried to focus our events on, is the fun experience, not necessarily the elite race. And we always want to be able to accommodate all levels, so we have big prize money for our events, but for the most part we really want everybody to be able to come and experience it. So I think that's kind of what we want to focus on. It might be time to bring back the urban assault ride, maybe call it something a little different, but have something where it's a bike obstacle race, scavenger hunt, that people can do with their friends. I definitely like continuing to do gravel events, and we'll see. I also think cross-country mountain biking is going to start getting bigger again as NICA and all the younger kids are getting back into it. There was a bit of a gap there where cross country mountain bike kind of fell off, but I think there's going to be some renewed interest in that as well.
So what exactly is the cross country mountain biking? Is that sort of versus like a downhill mountain biking or?
Yeah, cross country is, endurance. Usually it's anywhere from 10 to 30 mile races, usually on laps. And, cross country is not as, I guess some of the courses are getting technical, but it's definitely not, downhill oriented. So, these days, most of the mountain bikes that are being made are more trail bike focused. And that's certainly fun. I enjoy that type of riding too, but cross country is shorter travel and, much more cardiovascular based.
Sure. Yeah. Like a cross country skiing versus a downhill skiing, that kind of a thing.
Right.
Yeah,
Exactly.
Yeah. That's awesome. Yeah. I've said it before, but when, I kind of come from more like the running kind of background, and, there's some events in running, and yours is one of them now. And, the Ragnar events where you have kind of, a cross country race and you've got kind of a clover leaf pattern. So you've got this, little hive of activity for 24 hours in the middle. And it's the kind of thing that, you could be a competitive runner and you'll have a blast, or you could be just out to be with your friends and you'll have a blast, and that kind of, environment. You get people, they come, they enjoy it, then they might, they kind of get bitten by the bug, then they go out and they do more events, and they're, it's a great way to draw them in. So, you've got somebody that they're, working from home and they have more time and they go riding, and then they come to some of these events and now they're there for life, they're part of the community.
Yeah, that's certainly how it went for me, and I definitely, like, once I went to that first race and in Big Bend, I was like, all right, this is me. This is what my life is going to be. I didn't visualize it being like on the other side of the start line, like putting on races, but I thought it was just the coolest thing ever. And I guess at that point, that's when I decided I really wanted to really take mountain biking seriously. So yeah, events have that ability. And I think that's what I love about my job is creating these experiences that people will always remember. It gets people away from technology, which is continuing to be evasive. I'm, personally addicted to my phone, and it's nice. I mean, nice to be able to step
it's built
away.
For that.
Right.
Yeah.
So, these are real life things that you can do. And it's not, it's not something that's made for, digital media. It's made for you to have fun and for you to do with your friends. So I think people are certainly now, I think, going to appreciate experiences more than anything else. And, that's really what my goal has always been. I really like just overall lifestyle events. We have an event called Burning Can Fest and Lions, and it combines beer, sports, music, camping. So we have an event that kicks off the day called the Beer Relay. So I don't know if you've heard of the Beer Mile, but this is a kind of modified version of that. So it's the 5K trail run where you do a lap, you have to slam a beer, and then you pass your baton to your teammate who then does a lap, and then and that goes on for 4 hours, and it's teams of 2 or 4. And then once that finishes, there's a beer festival with 80 breweries. And when that finishes, there's a concert, and then camping, and there's all sorts of other, there's dog jumping, and there's a BMX jump contest, there's kayaking. It's like a fun, really fun weekend for all sorts of different interests, whether you're an athlete or fan of beer. I think there's really a lot of good overlap for fun things for people to do.
Wow. Yeah, that sounds awesome.
Yeah, it is. It's my favorite weekend of the year. I wish I didn't have to work it, because I would.
Yeah, and I think that like the camaraderie thing is huge, because when you sort of sweat or you have these war stories with other people, there's nothing like it. You get together at a brewery say you meet up with friends at a brewery. That's fun. It's enjoyable. It's fun. But if you've just, ridden through a snowstorm for, 100K, and then you come and you sit at that same brewery with the beer and those people, it's just like, exponentially better. I mean, there's just this massive bond. I mean, I'm kind of preaching to the choir. Like people that have done it know, but if you haven't, it changes, totally changes the, I don't
Yeah.
know, the
Well, yeah. I mean,
fabric
as
of it.
far as like, I think the energy of other people helps you push yourself to go harder, to do things you know normally wouldn't do. And then when you have accomplished those, it's thrilling. You know, it's like, wow, you push yourself to either go faster than you've ever done or go harder than you've ever done, and or you know go in, you know, a snowstorm like you would otherwise, if it wasn't an event, you'd be hanging out on the couch watching TV, but instead you're out there with your friends in the middle of a snowstorm. So yeah, I mean, that's what makes life worth living, I think. You know, I mean, those are the fun times where when you're out there making memories.
Oh yeah. So what made you, was there like a moment or what made you kind of like make that jump to being on the other side of the event organization and say like I'm going to go ahead and do this, and like what were some of the big sort of difficulties in those first couple of events or things that you faced that maybe you didn't think you were going to face in doing that?
Well, my degree was in internet marketing, and I first worked in the .com industry right around when I graduated and started working. That was like right around 2000, and then the .com bubble burst,
Hmm.
and I was 22 years old, living in Austin with a mortgage that I had to pay and like no no job. So I had to try to figure out quickly how I was going to make a living. So I started an outdoor fitness company, which was Adventure Fit, and the idea behind that was to create you know, fun outdoor experiences that would be, you know, fitness based. So it was, you know, before body weight training was a big thing. We would, you know, do kind of general outdoor fitness training, but then also teach mountain biking and kayaking and rock climbing and all that. And we thought, okay, well, let's put those together in one day. And that was our first kind of event. You know, like we put all these fun experiences together, and I kind of thought that was interesting. And then I thought, okay, well, what can we do that's, you know, that hasn't been done before? In Austin, you know, the running scene was huge. You know, that was the era with Lance Armstrong. So, you know, traditional road racing and mountain biking were very popular, and I love that scene. But at the same time, it's like I would do the same races every single year, and I was looking for something kind of different to do. And I didn't think there was any room for new events for a while there. But then I started to realize that yeah, there really is. And I think when what we like to do also is create events around brands. So I mean that's really how we started. Whether it's for New Belgium Brewing or Shape Magazine or Men's Fitness or Oscar Blues, you know, we create events around that brand. And you know, like I said, often that's outdoor lifestyle focused, fitness oriented. But you know, sometimes it's just I have to just think about like what do I really want to do on the weekends. And
Yeah.
now I've got kids and I'm trying to keep them entertained. So we started the Boulder Taco Fest, which has lucha libre wrestling and live music and piñatas and of course, you know, tacos and beer and all that. So that's fun for me on the weekend with my kids. And you know, it all evolves. But I think it's ultimately the root is just finding really awesome fun things to do on the weekends.
Oh yeah. And were there any, so how did you go about kind of doing that first event and organizing it? Was it something where you know, you sort of set up a website or you went to one of these brands to sort of maybe pitch the idea of doing an event around their brand, or what were some of the kind of logistics in starting that?
Well, the first event we did was Urban Assault Ride in 2003. And I
Wow.
was
Okay.
pretty well networked at that time. So I worked with running stores and bike shops and gyms. And with that, you know, this was yeah, Facebook. I mean, I guess Facebook was out, but that really wasn't it so much. It was, you know, email marketing, newsletters, you know, databases that businesses had. So really at that point, we had to get really creative with how we were going to spread the word. Like we had a billboard
Yeah.
promoting our event. And, you know, it's always about really, you know, networking and trying to get strategic partners involved for us. And with Urban Assault Ride, it was it was really different and unique. So we got some really good media coverage right off the bat. We had people going into Town Lake. I think it's Lady Bird Johnson Lake now in Austin. They changed the name of it, but we had these huge like rubber duckies that people had to ride in the lake, and it was very, very visual and fun, and people dug that. And at that, small businesses are always looking for ways to attract people, and we would actually bring people to their door through this event. So I think that was kind of a cool piece. And as that event evolved and went into new markets, we would again kind of work with the fact that we would again be able to bring active people, these desirable, their demographic that they want to the business, and create a fun experience, and then have a big party afterwards that everybody could participate in, whether it's the sponsors, the businesses, or the people. And we always have nonprofits involved, trying to have better nonprofits that are associated with the event. Whether it's women's nonprofits for our female focused events, or cycling nonprofits, or Bicycle Colorado to promote bike advocacy and safe roads. That's always a big part for us too.
Yeah. That's awesome. So you started out with billboards and newsletters. Like, what kind of how do you promote the events nowadays? Is it?
Well, these days it's primarily digital marketing. I mean, ideally we have events that sell out quickly, where we just have to send out an email and it sells out. That doesn't always happen, especially if it's something new. But for example, for Old Man Winter, we're able to work with Rafa and Specialized to help spread the word. Often bike shops will do it too. For Old Man Winter, we do training events that are free training rides, and typically we'll have 200 people or so show up for those rides, and get the word out through that. We couldn't do that this year, so we had revised kind of formats with checkpoints for those training events. But we always like to ultimately try to get people to talk about it, because that's the most influential way is word of mouth marketing. So if you can get people excited about it, and they tell their friends, then it kind of spirals in that sense. So that's our number one goal. But email, digital marketing is always important. But at the same time, you want to be able to have something that's novel enough that doesn't really require a whole lot of a marketing.
Yeah, it kind of does it for itself.
Right. Ideally. Yeah.
Have you had any ideas not work? Like any sort of novel ideas in these events not work?
We had an event that we produced for men's fitness called the Ultimate Athlete Games, and the idea behind that was an event for more like CrossFit athletes. So instead of endurance focused, there were short courses, one for strength, one for agility, and one for speed. And they wanted it in big markets, Chicago and New York, but we didn't have the budget to do that. So we had to kind of put it like in New York, for example, it had to be in the Catskill Mountains outside of New Jersey. And in New York, a lot of people don't have cars, so that wasn't feasible for a lot of people to get there. And Men's Fitness is like, well, we need to spread the word. Let's get people out in the street handing out flyers. I'm like, you can't do that in New York City. That's just that's not going to fly. So I think the concept is really awesome for that event. I still think it would do well, but you have to do it in a place that people can access. So there's so many pieces to make an event successful. There's the concept, there's when it's going to happen, there's where you're going to do it. It's the basic principles of marketing, of course, but you also really have to think about how you're going to position this to get people excited about it. So it always helps when you have partners that are able to spread the word. We did an event for Shape magazine called the Diva Dash, which was the first ever women's obstacle event, and that immediately sold out because Shape has such a big reach. But let's see, what are some other ones? We've had some events that we've tried to launch that we haven't quite gotten off the ground. I mean, we have a list of those that I think would be kind of fun to do one of these days. But I think sometimes some markets are better than others. Urban Assault Ride did really well in some markets and better than some than others. We took it to Nashville. Wasn't as big of a scene as Des Moines, So I mean, it's always interesting. You think you can find some good spots, but it's not always easy. I guess if it were easy, everybody would do it.
Sure. Yeah. So do you have events all over the country, or what areas do you sort of currently have events?
Right now, we're just focused on Colorado.
Okay.
For many years, we did event tours, and that was fun. But at the point that I started having kids, I wanted to be home more, and I love Colorado. So right now, we're focusing on really growing a good base of local events. I mean, local as in the Front Range of Colorado. That said, we get people from almost all 50 states that'll come in to do our events. But they're all based here at this point. I'd be open to doing some national tours at this point. Yeah. But I think Colorado is the coolest place to be. So
Colorado it's a cool place to be for sure. Yeah.
Where are you?
I'm in Nashville.
Really?
But my fiance's father lives in Colorado. Plus, like, I just love to go out there. So we get out there several times a year.
Oh, that's funny. I mentioned Nashville as their location that didn't work, but yeah, maybe it could now. We'll see.
Yeah. Well, I think it's growing. I mean, I think, like you said, across the country, this kind of stuff is growing. And I think, like, the fitness community in Nashville, like, a lot of it, there's a lot of like CrossFit and that kind of stuff, but just across the board, on a Saturday, you'll see people, you go out to the park on a Saturday, used to be sparse. Now it's just slammed with people. So I think probably everywhere it's growing, but obviously a place like Colorado, has a long history. Like you said, you put an event in Boulder and all of a sudden the pros start showing up and, it sells out, and it's, the community there is really strong. And I mean, a big part of it is that, it's got this, amazing, attractive landscape, and people that live in these other areas that are interested in this stuff sort of find themselves there,
Right. I mean, they're destination events. I think people love to come here and, make a fun time of it. We had a guy that came out for Old Night Winter from Fort Worth, and, he signed up for the weekend that was 1 degree. So I was like, oh man, you're in for a treat. But I think that's.
And he had the time of his life and hasn't stopped talking about it.
Right. Well,
it's like
he comes every year, so I guess it's worth it to him.
Well, that's awesome. Well, yeah. Well, thank you for coming on. Is there anything that's kind of what I had on my mind to ask you? You got anything you want to add or throw in there before we call it?
No, I mean, I guess what I would say is, for people that are getting into cycling for the first time, I think that events are definitely the way to go to meet new people, to be able to push yourself and really get a full sense of what it's all about. I mean, bikes are an incredible invention for fun, for fitness, for transportation, and I think they're the coolest. So I definitely would encourage people that are new to riding to try out an event, because I think that's what really, like I said, makes the world go around.
Oh yeah, and they'll do it, and they'll be hooked. So where can they go to find, or where, if someone was wanting to kind of see your events that you've got and potentially sign up, where would they go to do that?
Adventurefit.com is our company's website. Gold Rush Bike Rally is our September event coming up soon. Not coming up soon, coming up in September. But that one should probably sell out quick. That'll be a really, really fun experience. That one's actually opening next week for registration. Boulder Taco Fest, we have our new date, but the festivals, we're still kind of waiting out to see how, when we can have thousands of people together again. So, in the meantime, we're getting ready for fun times. We just can't commit at this point to, our large 1,000+ person events.
Well, yeah. Awesome. Well, yeah, I think we're all ready for it. And when we can have those fun times, you'll be ready to host them.
Oh yeah.
We'll there. Well, Josh, thank you so much for coming on. I really enjoyed this, and love to get you back on in the future and talk about more events and more ideas you're trying to bring, together in one weekend.
Yeah. Next time we can talk about all the war stories we've had and the crazy adventures trying to put events on.
Yeah.
In all sorts of different cities.
Yeah, that would be awesome. Well, thank you.